perception you have of yourself, the thoughts you align with, the standard feelings you tap into, how you hold yourself, the actions you take, your daily habits. So it's sort of everything that makes you you. And most of us, if not all of us, operate from an unconscious self-concept. And most people hold a concept of themselves that's not actually fully authentic to their true selves. And the issue is that subconsciously projects outward. So if I show up a certain way, people are going to treat me differently. I'm going to be open to different possibilities or closed off to different possibilities. So that's why it's really the root of everything.
Welcome to the Divine Hangout. I'm your host, Hillary Jubilee. It is my intention that when you listen to this podcast, you experience an increase in peace, abundance, and divine miracles in your life experience. If you love all things spirituality, wellness, healing, manifestation, and miracles, you are in the exact right place at the exact right time. Let's enter the portal together. Welcome back to the Divine Hangout. It's Hillary, and today I am joined by the lovely Lorena. And Lorena is a self-concept coach and my friend, so I'm super excited to have her on the podcast today. Welcome, Lorena.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. So excited to just reconnect with you because it's been a while since we chatted as well, and excited to be here on your podcast as well. I think it's so awesome that you're doing this, by the way. I don't know if I told you this yet.
Thank you. Amazing. Okay, so let's start, since you're a self-concept coach, let's start with self-concept. So could you describe what is self-concept? Why is it important to focus on? Because self-concept is everything, right? So yeah, why do you think we should focus on that for changing our reality, and what is it?
Yeah, okay. So the way I define self-concept is the identity that you show up from, and sort of that contains the perception you have of yourself, the thoughts you align with, the standard feelings you tap into, how you hold yourself, the actions you take, your daily habits. So it's sort of everything that makes you you. And most of us, if not all of us, operate from an unconscious self-concept. So our identity is shaped throughout our lives by, what we observe in our circumstances, what we're told about other people, what we're told about ourselves, the experiences we make. So all of that shapes our beliefs and then who we think we are. And most people hold a concept of themselves that's not actually fully authentic to their true selves. And the issue is that or I don't even want to say issue, it's just a fact that subconsciously projects outward. So to just give a basic example, if I have a self-concept where I walk around like I'm a freaking celebrity, the way people are gonna approach me, the way people are gonna be affected by me is gonna be completely different as if my self-concept is the identity of somebody who's like very shy and reserved. So I might be the exact same person and have the exact same circumstances, but the way I show up is different. And through that, everything else will change as well. Because if I show up a certain way, people are going to treat me differently. I'm going to be open to different possibilities or closed off to different possibilities. So that's why it's really the root of everything to me.
Yeah, that's so important. And I think it's really important for people to hear that and just be aware that you can actually choose a different one, because, we go through life and we have experiences, and then we make mean things about ourselves from what other people say, and what we like, it brings up feelings of inadequacy or whatever the issue is. Like, you go through things and then you think you're not good enough or whatever it may be. And then most people just like carry on like with these beliefs about themselves, and then they don't realize that they're creating more experiences that reflect that belief. So how does one go about shifting an identity or shifting those beliefs about themselves to change the outer?
Great question. Also, apologies about my cat who just started being noisy. So, yeah, that's a really important question. And it's not that easy. I think that's the important thing. You were speaking about, we can choose a different one. And yeah, we can, but I think people sometimes go wrong in their approach to changing their self concept because they approach it from a surface level. So they will say, okay, I am now this new version of me, and now I'm just showing up as that. But if you've been practicing something else your entire life, it's not as simple as that. So, what to me plays into it is really integrating your shadows first and foremost. Shadow work is for me the basis of self-concept work, because so for anybody who might be listening to this and who isn't aware of it, your shadow is an unconscious part of your psyche that you have pushed down deep into your subconscious, that you are hiding, repressing, rejecting because you carry some shame about it, or maybe somebody told you it's not okay to be this way or to feel this way. So because of this, we might say, okay, this part of me is not okay. And then that gets kind of pushed deep into our subconscious. But as I'm sure all of your listeners know by now, whatever is in your subconscious is exactly what gets projected outward. So if we push something down and repress it and hide it, that's exactly what will have an impact. So that is a good starting point, to start with shadow work, because when you do that, you're already going to be able to become more whole and complete, and to uncover your true identity, your true self. And from there, it's much easier to choose something different. And the other aspect, I think, is embodiment. So really feeling into and integrating and embodying a new identity, rather than just conceptually thinking about what it may be like, but really seeing what actions can I take, what habits can I incorporate. So to give a very simple example, and I know this is something that you actually moved through personally, if I have the desire to change my body and to become more athletic, more fit, maybe lose weight, if I only focus on that end result of what it's
Oh my God, Elsa's going crazy.
If I only focus on that end result of what it's like to, I don't know, be fit, athletic, skinny, there's no path to actually becoming that version of me. But if I think about, okay, if I was this version of me, what would I be doing? Yeah, maybe I would go to the gym every day. That is actually an action I can take that then aligns with the self concept I desire to have, which will then actively, tangibly change my reality. So that's a really good thing to look at as well. See, the version of me that I want to be, what kind of habits would he or she have? What kind of actions would they take? And how would they just carry themselves, and how would they show up? And that often also includes taking risks. So because it is a transformation, it is a complete change of who you are, and that can be scary. So I find a lot of people hold themselves back from maybe, doing something that is uncomfortable, getting out of their comfort zone, investing energy into something, investing time into something, investing money into something. But if you think about who you want to be and how this person would approach these risks and these investments, they would probably do the thing that you're scared of.
Yeah, that's great. All of that. Okay, there's a few things I want to touch on here. So can we go back to the shadow thing? So the integrating of the shadow. So how does one, like, just to break that down? So integrating, like, I recently learned what, like, before I thought this meant like integrating to me is like, okay, you're like making it part of who you are, but like I think what it means is like like you could interchange the word transcend. So like you are aware of it, and then you're able to see it for what it is, and then move past it. Is that correct?
Yes and no. I would say, your prior definition, integrating, you make it part of who you are, is actually what it is.
Okay.
Because when we think about it, why is a shadow in our psyche? And when I say shadow, I think people often misunderstand it to mean something negative. And I want to make clear it doesn't have to be, it can also be something positive. So, for
Okay.
example, if I see somebody who, I don't know, let's say I look at somebody who has a really healthy relationship and I don't have that, or I look at somebody who has lots of success in their business and I don't have that, or somebody who has a lot more money than I do and I don't have that, and I'm going to feel jealous. That is also, that emotion of jealousy is also going to be pushed into, my shadow. But what is it really representative of? It's representative of a desire that I have and a potential that I carry. Because if I believe, or if I look at somebody else and I'm jealous of what they have, that's because I've got that potential in me too. So if I bring that jealousy to the surface and I start, making that part of me, integrating that by changing my relationship to it. I would say that is the key, changing your relationship to it. So instead of being ashamed of being jealous, or, having these judgments or having these feelings, I really get to know it and I see, okay, why is this even here? It's here because I desire this too, and I can have this too. And suddenly this big ugly monster of jealousy and of, this doesn't feel good, turns into something that I can actually use to my advantage and that I can fully embrace and that I can own as well. Or a different example for integration that's a lot more surface level is like, let's say, we're now recording this podcast, and let's say we'd both be super nervous or something, right, to do this. If we're going to sit here and then pretend we're all confident and fine when we're not, that's actually, that nervousness is actually going to get pushed into the shadow and people are going to feel that energy. But if we sit here and we're saying, you know what, I'm actually really, really nervous, suddenly it's out there, we're owning that tension that we're feeling, and it's going to lose its charge. So that's sort of what integration means.
Okay. I would like, when in those two examples, like the jealousy is coming up, and then you're looking at what you can gain from it, and it's telling you something else, like from a more positive or like loving perspective. But you're not gonna like once you, like, I don't know, if you're jealous of somebody, it's like, okay, I want what they have, but you could choose to look at it like you said, like that's what's possible for me and I'm happy for them. Like you could choose a
Mm-hmm.
different spin on it. So like you're not going to like continue on being jealous. So there's just something there that's like you're transforming that into something
Yeah.
productive. So yeah, like I don't know, you're not always holding on to the negative emotion, like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and yeah, I get what you're saying, and I agree. And I would also add on to this, maybe it's not negative, right? Maybe it's just a feeling, and maybe it can coexist. Maybe I can take this jealousy and, shift the perspective on it and see, okay, this is actually inspiration. And I'm probably still going to feel that sting of jealousy, and maybe that's okay also.
Mm,
So I would say it can coexist, but yeah, we can also like channel it into something else for sure.
yeah.
And that's that I call less integration. Integration for me is more like embodying it and really working with it. What you're referring to, I like to call emotional alchemy, where
Yeah.
we really, take these emotions and kind of transmute it into something else, which um, is a really felt experience as well, because the thing is still the same thing. It just feels differently. Suddenly, it doesn't feel that heavy and edgy anymore. It feels actually expansive, although it's the same sensation.
So if somebody is going about, okay, they're like, hey, I want to shift my identity. You're saying the best thing to start with is integrating your shadow. So like, is it only in those moments where one of these feelings comes up, or like, can you look at your life and be like, okay, this is where I'm unsatisfied, like maybe I can find a belief. Like how do you do that if unless something's coming up? Like, is there any other way to find it?
Yeah, of course. So I actually would suggest do it intentionally, because if you're not intentionally doing it, it's gonna find you. And you'd rather have control over it. So I would say, I mean, it's a big, big thing. Like, I've been doing shadow work for many, many years. And even when I work with clients, it's like the biggest part of our journey together. Like, it takes time. And I think that's important to acknowledge as well, because I'm not saying that to like scare anybody, but to actually validate it's okay if it takes time. It's a good thing if it takes time, because you want it to last, you want to sustain it, you want it to be sustainable. You don't want to have a quick fix that reverts back really quickly. So it's okay if it takes time. And but if you don't have, if you're just starting out and you're like, where do I begin with shadow work? I would, begin with just getting really honest with yourself. And the two biggest questions to ask yourself is, what am I jealous of in other people? That's going to show you your shadows. And also, what do I judge in other people? Because that's often a thing. If I judge somebody else, that's definitely going to be something that is also living within me. Right? That is definitely something that's also living within me, something that I used to have. I always wanted to be seen and somewhat in the public eye, and I never admitted that to myself. So then when I would see people who would really take up space and, be loud and proud and almost like flamboyant, I would be like, oh, look at that person. Why do they feel the need to do that? So I turned it into judgment, when in reality I was kind of jealous, because I wanted to show up like that and I didn't have the confidence to do so. So yeah, where do you judge others? What are you jealous of is a good starting point. And just, journaling on that and really confronting these parts. And also another good question is, what are you ashamed of? And I also want to say this is heavy stuff. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable to sit with that. It's not comfortable to feel that. So it does take a lot of practice to really expand your capacity to feel it. So it kind of loses the charge. Like, I can now sit with shame and embarrassment pretty easily, and it wasn't always this way.
Okay. I like those questions. I think that's really like actionable that you can, that somebody could like start with. And yeah, I love that. Okay. And then the other part of what you were saying about embodiment and the gym example and actions and habits, this is so true. And also, I don't know if this is true for like, I mean, it must be true for like some other people listening, but like I have these nagging like thoughts of like habits that I know that the next level would shift to, and it's like, okay, I should be doing this, okay, I should, and it's like, it's so funny because it's like, I don't know, it's just my higher self or like my subconscious like telling me, okay, that would be the next level if you just like take that leap and just start doing this. It's like, yeah, so it's the gym is a great example. Like, yeah, I wanted to transform myself, my body, like, yeah, just, and making that a part of who I am. And like, okay, I get up at this time every day. I get up at 5. I go to the gym at 6 every day. I'm there every day. Like, that's now, it's just a part of who I am. And I do that. And then, yeah, that helped me to transform for sure. So if somebody like, would you say that that was true for you too? Like, would you have like, okay, I know that if I just started doing this, that would be the next level. Like, do you think that you would have some awareness of that?
Yeah, I think so. If you have a clear vision, I think that's important as well, really having clarity on where you even want to go. I think a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people just have an idea of, because, when we think about desires and manifestation as well, all we really want is a feeling. And most people turn whatever they desire into this thing that they put on a pedestal because they think it's going to give them a certain feeling, which it will not. And that's important to say in the context of your self-concept as well. I think sometimes people actually want to change their self-concept, and they go about it the other way by trying to manifest something because they think it's going to make them feel a certain way. But whatever your self-concept currently is, if you don't actively change that, it's not going to change just because you manifest the thing you want. So
if you're able to manifest it without changing.
if you're even able to do that, but let's say you are, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it just comes in. Let's say you suddenly win the lottery. You win $1 million from this day to the next. If you don't have the capacity to hold that, if your self-concept doesn't align with somebody who can hold that money, you're subconsciously going to repel that. It's not a surprise that the majority of lottery winners go bankrupt within the first few years.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason for it, because they don't align with that identity. And their nervous system essentially rejects it. It's almost like a trauma response, like it repels it. And you see this in relationships too, right? Like if somebody, suddenly comes into a really healthy relationship and they've not, been used to that. And I see this in myself too. I actually told you before
Mhm.
we started recording that, I've been dating more again after I took a lot of time to myself after a breakup. And now I'm noticing myself falling into somewhat avoidant patterns. And I know it's because subconsciously there is still a part of me that is scared of that healthy love that I desire. So if our self-concept doesn't align with that, we're going to repel that as well. Your manifestation is only ever going to amplify the self-concept that you already have. It's not going to change it. And now I forgot what you asked.
Just said like are did you find that you were aware of like what the next level, like what are those
Oh, yeah.
habits that you would be needing to do?
Yeah, I think it depends on the scenario, right? But I think
Yeah.
most of the time we're aware of it and we just maybe have something in us that tries to stop us from growing because of the discomfort that causes. For example, when I started my business, I knew I needed a coach. I knew I needed a coach. So I ended up investing um, almost 10K in a coaching program because I knew the future version of me, the version of me that believes in my success, is going to make that investment. But that was stretchy, especially because at the time I didn't know would I succeed, right? I didn't have that proof, I didn't have that guarantee. So sometimes you need to take these actions from your future self, and even when you're not ready for it yet. I think that's really important because we're not going to be just wake up and feel ready. We need to do it first because that's actually going to stretch us. So I think, yeah, most of the time we know what the new action, the new habit would be, but we're actually too afraid to do it.
Another thing I wanted to mention on this topic is that I worked with this girl Audra Bear before. Have you heard of her, Audra?
Yeah, she teaches breath work, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she said this one thing about the next level, like becoming a higher version of yourself, and she just said like just like go within and just ask, like you could say like your guides or your higher self, or ask that version of you like what would that version of me be doing, and like it might not even make sense, like it might not even like relate exactly like with your coaching thing or with my like going to the gym, like it might not even like hers was like that version of me doesn't eat sugar. And it's just like a random thing that's just like an intuitive thing. It's like, okay, this version of me doesn't do X, Y, and Z or does this. And it might not make sense, but like just making a list of all of these things that come to mind when you go within and just ask that. And then just like step into that. And yeah, it was just interesting that some of them just might be like part of the identity that might not necessarily like exactly relate to the level.
Mm. That's interesting. That's such a good sign for like your subconscious always knows. Like
Yeah.
even when you don't consciously know, there is a part of you that knows.
Yeah.
One of my teachers said to me recently, because I'm currently doing a Kundalini yoga teacher training, and one of my teachers there, um, you know how in like the spiritual realms, and even I said this, like embrace the unknown, step into the unknown. And she was like, nothing is unknown. Like literally everything is known. You just might not be aware of it. And I think this is a really good example of that, because like you already know, it's just consciously you might not know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Because all is one. So yeah.
It's already, timelessness as well
Yeah.
relates to this. Everything's already happened, so everything is
Yeah.
known.
So would you say that this is similar to like the like identity shifting is the same as rebirth?
Yes, I actually think so. Yeah, because I think you cannot, in order to step into a new identity, you need to dismantle your old one. So you need to die to your old identity before you can embody something new. I think this is also a mistake that people, like, mistake is a bit of a harsh word, but I think a lot of people, let's talk about, for example, reprogramming the subconscious mind. I think a lot of people try to lay something over the beliefs they already have. So they will say affirmations or they will visualize, and those are all beautiful techniques. There is nothing wrong with them. But if you don't dismantle the beliefs that you already have, like you're just laying something on top of it, and there's no integration, right? There's no deep transformation that's happening. So yeah, I do think it's the same as rebirth, because in order to step into a new version of yourself, you need to like release the old one. You can't hold on to the old you. Like if you, for example, let's take the gym example again, because it's such a simple one, which probably everybody can relate to. If you um adopt this new habit of like going to the gym every morning, like the version of you that would then, I don't know what your lifestyle was before, but I'm just going to say like maybe you binged regularly or something, and like that doesn't align anymore. Like you can't do both. You need to completely release that old version of you to fully embrace the new, or you're going to flip back and forth, which you see a lot of people do, right? They go back and forth between two identities, two self concepts, and they never fully immerse themselves into the new.
So when you're talking about like reprogramming the subconscious mind and people laying beliefs on top, so how does one not do that, and how does one like dismantle, like is there a ceremony, or like is this similar to integrating shadows where you're like asking yourself where you're jealous and like looking at that and making like being aware of it and making it part of who you are?
Yeah, I think shadow work is the key
Yeah.
piece because it's such deep work. Of course, there are techniques and tools that you can use, right? I think hypnosis is very powerful for reprogramming the subconscious. But I think ultimately we also need to remember these are just practices. These are just techniques. They are actually on their own not going to create the deep transformation if you don't get really curious about what's going on inside of you and what's going on in your subconscious mind. And I think a lot of people hit a wall with that at some point because there's a reason it's called subconscious. It's by very definition not conscious. So you're only getting so far by, by using techniques or by even asking yourself questions, because your subconscious mind is going to protect you from knowing the things you really want to know, because that's exactly the purpose, right? Like there's a reason you push things into your shadow, because it was supposed to protect you. So there's a lot that can be done to kind of bring it to the surface. So what I personally do, both with my clients but also with the people I work with, is just first of all having a coach. I think is important, or a therapist, whatever resonates. Um, and then in terms of tools, I think somatic tools are also really powerful that work with the subconscious. So personally, I'm a big fan of breath work. I think you'll probably be too. But for some people, maybe other things resonate more. I also use a lot of somatic visualization, I like to call it. So kind of things that work with your subconscious and bring these pieces to the surface so you can create the spaciousness to integrate it and then to reprogram it. Because in order to reprogram something, I feel like we need to deprogram it first.
What's somatic visualization?
Oh, it's something that I kind of like made up. So it's kind of like a way of visualizing that I kind of guide people through intuitively. So it's not just happening in the head, it's happening largely in the body. It's hard to describe without actually like guiding you through it. We can do that at some point. I'll give you a little session.
Okay, sounds good. Is it like, just out of curiosity, is it just like it's like a guided visualization, but then you're like dropping into your feelings, like having like feeling the reality of things, kind of like Neville Goddard style?
No, it's not. It's more intuitive than that. It more
Okay.
works. It's more about the shadows that are present and what kind of arises in the subconscious, because what I would actually encourage people to check out based on this is Carl Jung's work, because
Okay.
he actually worked with a lot of visualization and imagination as well, but not in the sense of, oh, this is what I want to manifest and call in, but more like your imagination is the language of your subconscious, right? We can even use dream work for this as well, to really, notice. If you look at dreams, there's a lot of symbolism in your dreams.
Yep.
Very weird stuff that happens in your dreams, but it's the language of the subconscious mind. So yeah, so this is why it's so hard to explain, because it's very intuitive. It depends on what's present in the person. It's also something that I can't really use by myself. Like, I can't really guide myself through it, because my subconscious will block me from actually accessing it, because it's, I can't lead myself at the same time as I'm experiencing it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sort of like trying to get lucid in your dream, which is also possible, but it's not that easy for most people.
Yeah, I've never done that before. Cool.
I've only done it twice, but like on accident.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
It is really cool. I have a friend actually who's uh she's done a masterclass for my clients in the past, and she's a lucid dreaming coach. So she's really
Cool.
good to check out as well. She teaches that stuff. It's kind of wild.
What's her name?
Lana Sackwild.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I will check her out. Okay. So let's move to embodiment practices. So
Ooh.
can you describe how you would move through a trigger or like uncomfortable feelings? Like what, like, yeah, I don't know. I've seen you do like movement and things like that. So like, can you explain like if you get triggered, like what happens?
Okay. I mean, it depends on the trigger, but essentially, when we speak about embodiment, to really bring it down to the core, it's to act it out. Like really exaggerating the feeling and really immersing yourself into it. Because you may have heard of the 90-second rule. Have you heard of it? It's this idea that it's kind of in psychological fields. This is kind of worked with or mentioned a lot. And it's this idea that if we truly feel a feeling without creating a story around it, without, thinking about it, ruminating on it, but we just feel it, feel the sensation in our bodies and let it flow through us, it does not take longer than 90 seconds. Like after 90 seconds, that feeling will be gone. It's only when we resist it and when we add on stories on top of it and thoughts on top of it that it gets this big monster. So that's kind of how I work with my body too, when it comes to triggers. So if I feel triggered, I mean, we can't always do it in the moment, but let's say I have the spaciousness, I will just move with it, and I will just like really exaggerate it. So let's say I feel ashamed and I feel a contraction in me. For me, shame feels like a contraction. I will really make myself really small and contracted and really feel into that and, let that move through me. So it looks different every time. And it also depends on, I also have some practices that I teach that are more to transmute these triggers. But I think the best starting point for somebody who's especially new to this, I would say, is to just feel it. Just learn how to let the sensation move through it. I think a lot of people, when they even learn to sit with their emotions and not resist them, they just sit with it, right? Which, it's good if you're letting it be there, but I would say moving with it actually helps it flow through you much, much quicker, because you're kind of, an emotion is just a sensation. It's just a physical sensation in your body. It's nothing to be afraid of. It can't hurt you.
Yeah. It's so like imperative that people hear this. Like it's because you get like your mind just like runs with the story, and and then you're talking about it to somebody, and then you're making it bigger, and you blow it up into something even worse. Like, yeah, you could just save so much like pain by just moving through that. I don't know that.
It's just the machines up here, our brains, they just like are so harmful to us all the time.
It's almost like a moving meditation or something. Like just shut this off, shut the brain chatter off to do with it. It's like it doesn't need to come with a reason. Like you don't need to like explain to anybody or to yourself like, oh, I'm feeling this way, like blah blah blah, blah. Like just moving through it. It's so simple. It's so simple, but like it
is simple. Easy. Even if like, if somebody like, I don't know what that means, moving through it, like just shake it out. Just stand up tall and start shaking. Like that's all. Like do that for 5 minutes. See how you feel after. You're gonna feel different.
Yeah. If people don't take anything else from this episode, I feel like that's such a powerful thing to know about yourself, that you can move through emotions rather than get caught in a loop, in a story loop about it.
We need to have compassion for ourselves as well, right? Like I've been doing that for so many years. I still go down rabbit holes and start looping in my mind, and I constantly need to bring it back also, because it's just how our mind functions. We have like, being a human is a blessing and a curse, like as opposed to other animals. We have this ability to self-actualize, right? We're not just here to survive. We can actually thrive. We can create more thought for ourselves, which is such a gift. And that happens through the gift of our imagination and our mind. And that same thing can be our worst enemy.
Totally. Okay. Do you have any experiences that you've been through that made you rethink the way manifestation works, or the way like reality creation works?
Are you referring to something specific, or is that just a general?
I'm just asking. Like, like I don't know. Like, is there like, from your experience, like from the time when you learned about manifestation to like going into coaching and all of this, like, what I'm referring to is like holistic approach. Like how has that shifted? Like your idea of how to create reality, has that shifted over time through your experiences?
Yeah, 100%. So this is why I'm so focused on self-concept, and why I don't, although the ultimate outcome of the work that I do as well is ultimately manifestation, is ultimately external manifestations as well, I don't call myself a manifestation coach anymore, because it's truly not the focus. It's just a side effect, which is actually makes it a lot more fun, to be honest. But it's for that reason, because my journey has kind of been, which I'm sure, any of your listeners who are familiar with manifestation, or who have been in the manifestation community, will be able to resonate with what I'm about to share. Because I sort of started my spiritual journey, came into Buddhism initially, and then once I came into the manifestation community, I was really excited, and things started shifting, and I started manifesting things here and there. But I noticed eventually the deeper desires that I had, like the things that my heart was really deeply yearning for, they just weren't shifting. And it's because there was such a huge emotional charge attached to it. And I was speaking a lot throughout our conversation about, people approaching it as like a surface level thing. And that's what I was doing, right? I was just visualizing and, affirming and using techniques. And I think techniques are wonderful, but they are really just supportive for the deeper work that you're doing. On their own, they are not going to transform you. So over time, I really, I did a lot of shadow work, as I said, and I also did a lot of work with the nervous system, because, it's also a fact that our nervous system can, if it's too contracted, if we don't expand it into this new version of ourselves, it can also repel the things that we desire, because we don't feel safe to hold it, right? Like if I now give you $1 million, maybe you're going to be like, cool, awesome. Or maybe there's going to be a part of your system that's like, that's going to be so much responsibility, that's going to change my life, people are going to judge me. So there might be a part of your system, of your nervous system, that rejects it. So over time, I really developed this approach that was a lot more holistic, because it included, body, mind, and spirit. Because I find a lot of people in the manifestation world are only focused on mindset, right? It's like we're changing our perspective and we're changing our thoughts and maybe even the way we feel. And that all plays into it. But if you don't have the spiritual connection at the same time, you're going to be operating from your ego. If you don't include your body, you're not going to have that physical, tangible experience, and you're not going to be able to alchemize your emotions. Or on the flip side, if you're only in your body, but you don't work on your mindset, you might be really grounded and rooted, but you're going to hit a limit, because you're not going to be able to expand in terms of your imagination. If you're too much in the spiritual, you're going to be living in your imagination, and you're going to have fun there, but you're essentially going to be delusional, and you're not going to experience these manifestations physically, because you're not grounding it into your reality. You're just living up there in your mind. So I really noticed that I needed to bring it together. And the core, the root of everything that I always came back to is exactly what we started with: self-concept, the identity we operate from. That is always the root, because it includes all of these elements. Yeah.
That's okay. So okay, going back to the self-concept then. So like the part about the next that when you like talked about integrating your shadows and then the actions and things like that. So like what about the fun part where it's like, okay, who do I want to be? And like there's some sort of along the line you do that, right? Like it's like, okay, if people have no idea like what they want to be, it's just like, how does one go about like figuring out what identity they're shifting into?
Well, I mean, we can approach this different ways. I think ultimately people know. I think that that's the thing. Sometimes we just don't admit it to ourselves, or we just use a different path by saying, okay, this is how I want to feel, or this is what I want to manifest in my life. But all of that is always connected to an identity. So if I, for example, want to, let's stay with $1 million. If I want to be a millionaire and I want to manifest $1 million, okay, like, why do I want that? That is connected to an identity that I'm actually desiring to step into. Maybe I think that's going to give me the confidence or the power or the freedom that I desire, right? So then I can go into, okay, who would that version of me be, depending on what that motivation is. So that's a good question to ask as well with any desire that you have arise within you. Why? Like, why do you want that? And that's not to judge it or to say it's not possible, but to find the root of why you even want it, because there's something here.
So when you do that and you say, okay, I want this thing because I think it'll make me feel this way, or I think people will view me this way. How does one embody new feelings when you're habitual, like you're used to feeling, I don't know, people just have a set point, an emotional set point, and they're just like, some people may always I don't know, the people are at all different stages, but some people are like complainers and they're always like, oh, like life's not good and complaining about things all the time and like I don't know, things are going wrong. Or some people might just be like neutral and like everything just going along and nothing, there's no excitement or passion or anything. It's just like everything's fine. There's nothing wrong, but it's just like blah. You know, like people have these set points. So like
Yeah.
if you're practiced at feeling neutral, which is not bad, but like, you know, like how do you practice like joy? How do you practice feeling powerful, feeling courageous? Like I have something on this, but like I'd like to hear what you think.
Okay. So how do I actually embody a feeling is what you're
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think like in what you were just saying with people having a certain set point, there's also an important question to ask. Do you even want change? Because some
Mm-hmm.
people don't. You know, some people say they do, but they're actually comfortable where they are, which is fine. If that's what you want, that's also fine. But, you know, it needs to be acknowledged as well.
Yeah.
When we talk about how to, well, I actually have a practice that I like to teach when it comes to embodying certain emotions and certain states. And I'm just going to like explain it in a simple way because I can't really demonstrate it right now. But we were speaking about embodying emotions and kind of letting them flow through you earlier. So I think about what the opposite belief of that is. So let's say I want to feel free. So, but right now I feel trapped. I'm really going to immerse myself into that feeling of being trapped. So I really amplify what that feels like. So I get familiar with it and I can recognize it. And then I flip it around. And then I go, okay, what is the opposite of that now? If feeling trapped maybe makes me contract, well, then maybe feeling free makes me open. So then I can actually work with the body to create that feeling in the body to familiarize myself with what that may feel like in all actuality. So that's a practice that I like to do.
And when you're, so is this just like something you're doing in your house? Like, or do you go out on your day and try to like keep that feeling?
So this is just like a singular practice, but yeah, like if we talk about obviously sustaining it, um, you know, yeah, the goal is ultimately with anything you're doing to not just keep it as a practice, but to take it into your day, right?
Yeah.
I think when we talk about like, it depends on what you want to embody, but I think what also is really powerful is music. So if I
Mm.
want to feel like a confident badass, you know, I put on that playlist and I like strut along outside on my walk and like nobody is hearing like what kind of a bad bitch I am, but I know. You know?
Hot girl walk.
Yeah, exactly. So
I love
music
that.
is a good one for that also.
Yeah, totally. That's a good point. Yeah, I'm reading this book called A Course in Alchemy, and
Interesting.
it's like it's amazing. I haven't finished it yet, but my boyfriend and I are both like taking turns with it, and it's like it describes it in the book as like a course in miracles for the 21st century, and it's like there's practices in there. And anyway, so like one of the concepts in there is about they call it like the 7 living words, and it's like happy, confident, I don't know, there's just like 7 words that are like feelings. And they talk about wearing a word, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna wear happy, and it's like, what does that feel like? It's kind of like what you're saying, like what does it feel like in your body? And it's just like pick one and go throughout your day like wearing that word, trying on the word. And it talks about like obviously words as vibrations, and you're being happy, you're being that word. And like yeah just I like the concept of wearing it, like I'm trying it on, and I'm going to go throughout my day like what would happy feel like and what would happy do, and like just embodying the word throughout the day. And then it also like it says like start with one, and then it says to do 3, like pick 3 of them. And like it says, I don't know exactly, but it says to like visualize it in a triangle and like put one word on each of them. And or first it says like put 2 words on either side of the triangle, and like the vibration of those together is a certain thing, like confident and happy is like a different vibration than just happy. And then put the third one,
Right.
and then it's a different vibration with all 3 of them. And like you're being these 3 in a triangle, and it's just like amplified in the triangle. I don't know, it's all like very metaphysical and like I love it so much. But anyway, just like the idea of wearing something, wearing a word, really stuck with me. And I love that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that as well. And I also like the concept of wearing and trying it on because it takes the pressure off. Because I
Yeah.
think sometimes people are like, oh, now I need to feel this way. Now I need to be this person. But no, you don't. You're practicing it. Like
Yeah.
quite literally, because you can't just suddenly change who you are overnight. Like people speak about overnight shifts, but in all actuality, it never happens overnight. You're practicing
Right.
it. You didn't go into the gym once and then you were suddenly a different person. Like it took time. And I think,
Totally.
like, yeah, that concept of I'm trying that word on, I'm wearing it today,
Yeah.
like really takes the pressure off and just makes it more of an experiment and something fun to do.
Totally. Yeah. And it says like the 7 living words, and then it explains each one. And then it does like a little write up on like one of them. I can't remember which one, but something to do with like it gives an example of like one of them's like, oh, queen energy. Like it's like a queen, a command or something like that, like power or something like
Mm.
they have a weapon, but they don't need to use it because everyone respects them. It's just like a vibe. Like the word is a whole vibe. Yeah, I love it. And then it has like a list of more of them where it's like abundant and like, anyway, it's super, super awesome book. You should check it out.
That's really cool. Yeah, I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, powerful.
Um, okay. Do you have a favorite manifestation story or something you're proud of that you shifted using self concept?
Ooh, I mean, I feel like honestly everything in my life right now, like I find it hard to pick one favorite. I think I'm just like such a freaking different person from who I used to be, and sometimes I'm a bit sad when people like find. I mean, I'm sure there's now going to be people who don't know who I am, who are now hearing me for the first time, and they just think the way I'm showing up, the way I'm talking, like that's just who I am. No. So I think my favorite is just the transformation I've been through. I have some awesome manifestations that I have, but honestly, like my favorite is just that I am now able to show up confidently. I am now like fully choosing myself. Like I'm calling in relationships, friendships, romantic relationships into my life that I never had before because I am different. And, even my business, like I'm so proud of what I have created. And that all came through the shifts in my self concept as well. And yeah, it's just the thing with changing your self concept is it just transforms everything in your life so radically because so many people think they maybe just have one area of their life to quote unquote fix. And I'm putting that in quotes intentionally because there is nothing to fix. But they think, oh, like, it's good in my career and I'm good with money, but like my love life sucks, or the other way around. But there's always a connection, and the root always comes back to your identity, your patterns, your belief system. So when you get to the root of that, when you learn to integrate these shadows, when you learn to shift your identity consciously, it's going to change your whole life. It's going to change your whole reality and not just the thing that you're currently dreaming of.
Yeah. It's like that saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
if
I don't know
you're,
if I like that saying though,
you
because
don't like it?
no, like I get the idea of it, but I don't think it's always true.
Mm.
Like it's not like I don't think I do everything the same.
I just think like it's like if you're lacking in, I'll use myself as an example, like with the gym and how you were saying like, oh, the binging thing. Like,
Mm.
um, I used to like binge on like I'm a chocoholic. Like it's like
Mhm.
I just love chocolate so much, and there's nothing wrong with that. I
So
don't
do
need to
I.
like give up chocolate, but like I'll just eat too much, and like that
Uh-huh.
is still something that I'm working on. Where it's like
Mhm.
okay, and it's like contradicting, and like I don't want to be eating as much as I am, and it's like me not you know being my highest holistic self in this one area affects the other areas. So it's like if I don't go to sleep on time, that affects my whole day. Like
Yeah.
it's like these little habits are, I'm not being my highest self in every area. If in that one area, if I'm not being my highest self, it trickles down into the rest. Is how I think of that
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is very true. Yeah. And I saw this in my life as well. Like when I was having lots of, I don't know if this is maybe the same for you as well. when I was having a lot of trouble in a relationship that I was in. Like my career was suffering also. Like it's like I could not, it wasn't necessarily suffering, but I couldn't step into my fullest potential because it's almost like there was something blocking me because that other area of my life I was showing up so inauthentic to who I was, because that was me also, right? Like I had these experiences, but I was stuck in a place of unworthiness and codependency and things like that, and that reflected out in all areas of my life. So yeah, I get what you're saying. I would agree with that also.
Yeah, I concur on like the unhealthy relationship thing. Totally. Like that somebody Anita Aguilar, I interviewed her on my podcast. She's has the manifesting money podcast, and she said this one thing on one of her podcasts. It was like um people are the biggest energy blocks. And I heard that when I was in that toxic relationship, and I just was like, no, like, the whole SP thing, how like it's like, oh, like if I show up differently, they'll reflect that, and like everyone's being pushed out, so like other people will reflect, me being different, and it's like, yes, and like you have to choose yourself. So anyway, like when she said that, like people are the biggest energy blocks, I just like was so resistant to that, because I was like, no, like I can change myself and he'll change, and like this whole mess up like side of the SP thing, which we don't
Yeah.
need to get into, but like like just she was so right. It's like as soon as I like chose myself and was like, I will not put up with this behavior anymore, like, and it's also like you're I was feeling like unworthy, codependent, like how you were saying, like unworthy, key thing, unworthy, and thinking it's like that person is like, I need that person to be okay, and it's like it's not abundant mindset, because there's so many other people that aren't going to treat you that way, and it's like you can't see it when you're in it, but like once you get out of it, it's like, yeah, there's just so much more, and you deserve to be treated so much better, and it's like, yeah, it's hard to see it in the moment, but yeah, people will block you, like if like being in that relationship, like I had, it caused issues in my friendships and things like that, like it trickled down into other parts of my life. Yeah,
It will, because like, as you said, the root was your feelings of feeling inadequate or feeling
yeah,
unworthy, and you were unconsciously probably trying to use that person to validate that worth that you weren't feeling within yourself. So
yeah,
like you gave this example of, well, I also had to choose myself then. So yeah, that's the way to, if anybody here is like, I want to feel chosen, choose yourself. That is the path. Because if you're trying to get another person to choose you, that like it's the same thing, you're just trying to use another person to do the thing that you can do yourself. Like what a
yeah, and
backwards way to do it.
it's scary in the moment. It's like, this
Mhm.
is all I know, and like you can't see what's on the other side, but it's like so much better on the other side.
It also requires you to take responsibility, which I think is the hard thing to do for people,
Totally.
because if you're like, I need to choose myself, and it's now not this other person that I can blame anymore for the way I'm feeling, you have to take
Hmm.
full responsibility. That is scary, and that can be
Yeah,
painful and uncomfortable.
totally. Yeah, but it's also so freeing,
Hmm.
and you
Absolutely.
create space for
All
better
of the
things.
magic that's meant for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, okay. Do you have a book, like a favorite book, a book that changed your life, or a book that you're loving right now?
A book that changed my life, or a book that I'm loving right now? Ooh.
Mhm.
Okay, I need to sit with this for a moment, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Mm, a book that changed my life, or a book that I'm loving right now?
Like, is there one that you found like at the beginning of your journey or something like?
Well, at the beginning of my journey, I really studied Neville Goddard's work very
Yeah.
extensively. But I'm actually going to pick a book that was on my mind this week anyway, and that really relates to something that we spoke about on here, which is about changing your identity through changing your habits, and that's Atomic Habits by James
Mm,
Clear.
nice.
So yeah, that's the one that I would say, just for context. I wouldn't say it's like the book that changed my life, but yeah, it fits with the topic.
Do you think Neville Goddard's books change your life?
I think they did. Yeah, I think they did. And I still really enjoy his work. I just
Yeah.
think, I'm going to give another book recommendation actually for those people who can maybe get caught up in the whole spiritual ego stuff of like nothing is real and this is the way to go and I create my own reality, and who kind of get into bypassing. And that is a book that I read a few years ago that I actually did find quite life-changing. I forgot the author of it, but it's called Eyes Wide Open: Cultivating Discernment on the Spiritual Path. So
Ooh.
it's a really good read, and it's about, it goes into things like cults and groupthink and spiritual ego. So yeah, not to go on a tangent here, but I love Neville Goddard's work, and it did absolutely change my life. I would not be sitting here in front of you right now if I hadn't read his work and if I hadn't studied it extensively. And I don't think it's the be all end all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Okay. How can people find you if they want to work with you? You have a really awesome program called Recreate Yourself.
I do, yes. So I would say the best way to find me is either on YouTube. It's Lorena Schuth, LorenaSchuth, and the same on Instagram. And I would just say, anybody who finds me through you, drop me a DM. I'm very approachable, and I have a free guidebook that I created a while ago, which I'd be happy to send to anyone who's curious, because it's all about holistic manifestation and includes a bunch of practices, some of the ones we discussed here today, and also some other ones, journaling prompts, and just, an in-depth explanation onto how to really change your state of being. So yeah, that's how people can
Beautiful.
find me.
If you could leave the audience with one message, what would that message be?
One message. The message would be, any answer that you're looking for, your heart knows. Like, you already have the answer inside of you if you get out of your head. So take a deep breath and just tune into what your heart really, really wants to say to you.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for joining me on the Divine Hangout. I'm so excited for
I'm
this
excited too.
episode.
This was so fun.
Yay.
Yay.
Amazing. Okay, well, thanks for listening, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.